Let me show you something. My best friend wore this short sleeve shirt, and after that, she had an allergic reaction, breaking out in red rashes all over her body. There was a news report before, and an initial test found that carcinogen in women's clothing exceeded the standard by more than 20 times. Long-term contact with the skin can lead to all sorts of skin diseases and even gynecological issues. I'm really not exaggerating. So today I had my team members check every new piece of clothing in our dressing room. Have you ever had an bad experience with online shopping? Maybe you bought clothes or products that made you feel unwell after getting them home. If that's the case, be careful. Your clothes could be toxic. This is a breathability test. We pour dry ice into a cup and add water. Let's check out how breathable these clothes are. The experiment results are as follows. Pure cotton is the most breathable. 30% cotton mixed with 70% polyester is moderately breathable, and 100% polyester is not breathable at all. Next, we're going to do a petri dish test. We prepared two pieces of clothing, one that's been washed and another that's brand new. We took small samples from each and placed them in a petri dishes to see the results after a few days. As you can see, the unwashed clothes grew mold all over, while the washed ones were completely clean. After learning the truth about clothing dyes, I'll never buy cheap clothes again. In our daily lives, we pay a lot of attention to food safety and hygiene, but very few people realize that our clothes also pose a major safety risk. If it weren't for my experience as a show host sourcing products and working in e-commerce, I never would have guessed that the clothes we wear could be walking sources of formaldehyde and carcinogens. Right now, some shopping platforms and e-commerce sites are selling large amounts of toxic or low-quality products from China. These products often lure in overseas buyers with low prices and attractive designs, but the reality is these platforms are a hotbed for poor quality goods. Recently, the popular online retailer Shein was exposed for having products containing heavy metals and toxic chemicals. According to tests by German publication Oekotest, only 1/3 of the sample clothing from Shein met safety standards. The other 2/3 were rated as either poor or unsatisfactory. The Oekotest report revealed that out of 21 items tested, which included clothing for women, men, babies, and teens, some were found to contain harmful chemicals like antimony, dimethylformamide, lead, cadmium, and phthalates. One baby girl's romper was even found to contain toxic levels of antimony. Antimony can be absorbed through sweat, entering the bloodstream and causing serious harm to the body. Additionally, 2 pairs of sandals in the test were found to contain lead and cadmium, which one pair exceeding multiple limits set by the EU's REACH regulation. This highlights just how serious the contamination is. Even worse, one pair of women's sandals tested positive for banned phthalates, which may harm reproductive organs. These toxic substances are already dangerous for adults, but for infants, the damage to their health and development could be devastating. Germany has taken notice of this issue. Report says that in June, Friedrich Merz, leader of Germany's opposition CDU party, called for regulations of Chinese e-commerce platforms like Shein. He pointed out that 200,000 packages are shipped from China to Germany every day, yet none of these goods are inspected or taxed. Shein, founded in 2008, is a fast fashion brand from China. It mainly sells women's clothing, accessories, shoes, and bags, but also offers men's and children's clothing, beauty products, and some home goods. Although headquartered in Singapore, Shein is a Chinese e-commerce company and its products are made in about 5,000 factories in China. In recent years, Shein has become a go-to choice for young shoppers, with its business rapidly expanding across the globe. Reports show Shein has around 108 million active users across the 27 EU countries. Its exports to Western markets are enormous. At the same time, its popularity in Europe is growing quickly. A survey published in May by the Trade Research Institute IFH in Cologne, Germany, showed Shein's brand awareness and usage jumped significantly compared to last year. Around 91% of respondents said that they knew about the platform and 43% had used it, both figures rising by more than 10% points since 2023. The survey also showed that Shein's order frequency more than doubled from 2023, with 22% of users shopping on the platform at least once a month. Even during the pandemic, Shein's sales kept rising, while major clothing brands were laying off workers and cutting salaries. Shein was hiring more staff, showing its business was largely unaffected. However, experts have noted that China's overcapacity problem is becoming more serious as demand rises. Earlier this year, the Financial Times warned that China's overcapacity is exporting deflation worldwide, urging countries to prepare for the impact. The Financial Times explained that since China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, it has built its trade economy on low-cost made-in-China products. But now, due to a sluggish real estate market, weak consumption, and a falling yuan, China's export prices are dropping at the fastest rate since 2008 financial crisis. The report also quoted Franklin Templeton Emerging Markets Fund manager Chetan Sehgal, who said China's response to its economic challenges is to export deflationary pressure globally, with countries facing the issues of China's overcapacity. Western media suggests that the solution is to boost the purchasing power of Chinese consumers so they can buy more products made by Chinese factories. To do this, Beijing would need to redirect financial support from powerful state-owned enterprises to ordinary households. But so far, the Chinese government hasn't shown any interest in this approach. Instead, as the real estate market crashes and domestic growth slows down, China's leaders are relying on exports to get through the economic downturn. This strategy is evident in Shein's business model. However, despite the rising export numbers, consumers' reviews of Shein have become polarized. The most common complaint: cheap and low quality. I bought off there once, lived to regret it. Nothing looked like the pics, much cheaper fabrics were used, and it was all 3 sizes smaller than it should have been. I ordered quite a bit larger than usual but got clothes that might fit a 10-year-old. One buyer shared their frustration. As a cheap person, they are not worth it. Most of it isn't like the photos and is just bad quality. You have to pay to send it back. Easier to just not buy from it to start with. Another buyer pointed out, I have a pretty limited experience with Shein because I simply do not order from that type of fast fashion with any regularity for many reasons, but that limited experience says iffy quality and more concerningly inconsistent sizing. You might end up with something you can't even wear the first time. You're better off checking thrift stores or clearance racks for things you can touch and try on. Another buyer shared, this raises an important question. How can such low quality products be so popular? First of all, the items on Shein have one thing in common. They're incredibly cheap and there are countless options to choose from. For example, you can get a mesh dress for $3, a pair of jeans for $9, or a tube top for just $2. When you search for a keyword, you get hundreds, sometimes even thousands of results. It can be overwhelming, but shoppers also have concerns. According to Google, some of the most searched questions related to Shein are, why is Shein so cheap? And is Shein quality any good? A quick search on TikTok shows people sharing why they shop at Shein. Many users know that Shein has been criticized, but they still can't resist the low prices. One user in a video back in 2021 wrote, I do feel concerned, but I'm broke. It's fair to say that during times of high inflation, when prices are rising and family budgets are tight, price becomes a priority for consumers. One reason for these low prices is cheap labor. Fashion journalist Dana Thomas, author of Fashionopolis, The Price of Fast Fashion and the Future of Clothes, says that Shein and other fast fashion brands keep their prices low by outsourcing manufacturing to cheaper markets like China and minimizing cost as much as possible. The Chinese government helps factories hire large numbers of workers by lowering fees for rent, land use, electricity, and permits. And that's why these products can be sold so cheaply. Years ago, an American scholar found that Chinese factory workers were earning less than 1/20th of what American workers earned, while the cost of living in China was only half that of the US. When American factory workers earned $23.3 per hour, with employers also paying $8.5 per hour for health insurance, Chinese workers were making just $1.4 per hour with unknown social security pay. Cheap materials are also a big factor in Shein's low prices. It's been revealed that most of Shein's clothes are made from plastic, while Shein claims to use sustainable recycled materials, investigations found that nearly 60% of their women's clothing is made from polyester. Out of 55,000 women items, only 237 were made from recycled polyester. Many of their materials are derived from petroleum, such as nylon and acrylic. It is estimated that the fashion industry around the globe uses as much oil as the whole country of Spain does in a year, and the two major polyester manufacturers rely heavily on oil from Russia. Experts have warned that China's reliance on petroleum is contributing to the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Washing polyester clothing also releases microplastics, which account for 35% of ocean pollution. This raises serious concerns about the environmental impact of selling cheap, disposable, plastic-based clothing on such a large scale. It's not just Shein. Other Chinese e-commerce giants like AliExpress and Temu are also expanding rapidly overseas by offering extremely low prices. Consumers in countries like the US and South Korea struggling with high prices are being drawn in, and retail markets are quickly being taken over by Chinese products. In January 2024, South Korean Customs Service reported that due to a six-fold increase in counterfeit goods over the past 4 years, it launched a crackdown on counterfeit items being imported into the country from November 6 to December 1st last year. They seized over 142,900 fake items, with 62% of them coming from China. Of these, clothing made up the largest portion at 40%, followed by stationery at 16%, accessories at 14%, keychains at 8%, and bags at 5%. Toys, shoes, and wallets each accounted for 2%. Because items like earrings and handbags come into direct contact with the skin, Korea Central Customs Laboratory also tested 83 of these products. They found that 25 of them, or 30%, contain excessive levels of heavy metals such as lead and cadmium, with some items exceeding limits by up to 930 times. Out of 24 counterfeit earrings from brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Chanel, 20 of them, 83%, tested positive for cadmium, and 3 also showed excessive lead levels. The analysis revealed that to cut cost, manufacturers were using cadmium in the surface treatment of these items and even using lead and cadmium as major components in the production process. Out of the 20 earrings that tested positive for cadmium, 15 had cadmium levels that were 600 times higher than the legal limit, with some exceeding the limit by 930 times. A counterfeit Chanel brooch had lead levels that were 153 times higher than permitted. The risks associated with these products are gaining more and more attention. Earlier this year, an 11-year-old British girl named Chloe Norris suffered severe burns from using nail glue bought on the Chinese e-commerce platform Temu. Chloe's mother said that after applying the glue, Chloe suddenly felt her hands become very hot and painful. They applied ointment at home, but by the next day, large blisters had formed. Doctors diagnosed her with severe burns, and Chloe has since undergone 2 skin graft surgeries and runs a risk of permanent scarring. At the end of 2023, a Japanese consumer who bought a mole removal cream from AliExpress suffered skin necrosis. Japan's National Consumer Affairs Center reported in December that it had received several complaints about the cream, with 3 cases resulting in severe skin damage. Tests showed that the cream had strong alkaline properties, which can cause significant injuries. A former associate professor at China Capital Normal University, Li Yuanhua, believes that many Chinese products use harmful substances to cut cost, leading to poorly made goods being sold as high quality. He argues that countries should implement regulations to restrict and inspect online purchases, ensuring that counterfeit, low-quality, and toxic products don't reach consumers. Taiwanese surgeon Wu Xingdai criticized Shein on Facebook, saying, "This isn't the first time Shein's been caught. The government should ban these e-commerce products from entering Taiwan." Wu also warned the public cheap doesn't always mean bad, but if it's too cheap, be careful. Aside from the low prices, copying high-end brands and making knockoff is another reason for Shein's popularity. For Shein, copying seems to have become a routine. According to a Reuters report in June, Shein is facing over 90 lawsuits in the US for allegedly copying designs or products. In 2023 alone, there were more than 10 accusations of plagiarism. In July 2023, Swedish brand H&M filed a lawsuit against Shein in Hong Kong, claiming that Shein violated our designs in multiple cases and seeking compensation, product removal, and compensation for losses. Court documents show that H&M provided photos of dozens of items ranging from swimsuits to sweaters, claiming they were evidence of Shein's copying their designs. That same month, 3 independent designers, Krista Perry, Larissa Martinez, and Jay Barn, filed a lawsuit in the US accusing Shein of selling exact copies of their work. In September 2023, Los Angeles-based accessories and clothing brand Chrome Hearts filed a lawsuit claiming Shein had been selling accessories featuring cross and dagger designs that were identical or nearly identical to their own. In December, Australian swimwear brand Bayer accused Shein of copying several of its swimwear designs. A blogger has been tracking Shein's plagiarism cases since 2023 and has documented over 40 incidents involving clothing, accessories, jewelry, and more. Most of these cases involve small designer brands, and in some instances, Shein copied items before the original designs were even released. These designs were then sold on Shein at much lower prices than the originals, which is frustrating designers but appealing to consumers. As for why plagiarism is so common in China, Shanghai University history professor Zhu Xueqing told BBC Chinese that it's no coincidence. He believes that for a long time the Chinese have been satisfied with material wealth while stagnating in cultural innovation. It's not that the nation's creativity has diminished, but that certain authorities have suppressed it. Zhu explained that widespread plagiarism is tied to a cultural and political system that stifles individual expression. In this system, people have become accustomed to not thinking for themselves, taking shortcuts and avoiding risk by copying instead of creating. However, a superpower built on plagiarism cannot stand on its own. The shiny exterior can't hide the shallow foundation underneath. Although China is now the world's second largest economy, China falls short in terms of cultural influence. Real change will only come with a transformation of the entire political system.